Hi there, Agile friends. Get ready for the World Tour of Agile at the Agile Online Summit 2023. You can join us from October 24th to 26th for a global showcase of cutting-edge Agile practices and insights. Join us at agileonlinesummit.com. This year, we will be featuring some of the best work done around the world and world-class keynotes. You can check all of that at agileonlinesummit.com. But the best part is that your ticket is on us. That's right, it's free to attend and immerse yourself in the world of Agile excellence. Don't miss out on this opportunity to level up your skills and network with peers and industry experts. Mark your calendars and secure your spot at AOS 23 today by visiting agileonlinesummit.com. So get your free ticket or opt for the full digital pass that lets you keep all the conference videos forever and organize, why not, Agile learning sessions at work. You can get the full digital access at agileonlinesummit.com. I'll see you in the conference floor. Hello, everybody. Welcome to our Wednesday Leading Change episode this week with Zach Stone. Hey, Zach, welcome back.
Hey, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So, Zach, on Wednesdays, we dive into the murky waters of change, of course, because we, as Scrum Masters, are working with change nearly every day. It might be a personal change, ours or somebody else's, a team level change, or even an organizational change. We work with change all the time. So we want you to tell us a story of a change process you were involved with and walk us through that, how it happened, step by step. And as you go through that, highlight for us the tools, the tips, the tricks, and the techniques you learned back then that you still apply today.
What a big question. All right, let's begin. When I was working in mass transit as a consultant floating around working with healthcare and mass transit, we were brought in to work with an organization of about 10,000 employees. They had a lot of violence that were affecting their frontline drivers that were out in the street, people in the subway system, people on the buses. There were 150 to 180 assaults that had happened that were recorded. We also know that a lot of assaults on the systems don't get recorded because drivers don't want to have to report it. They don't have to deal with the paperwork. So we were working with a workforce that had been experiencing a lot of violence day in and day out. They were not trusting. And so when we got brought in as these external consultants, there was this feeling of like, who are these people and what are they doing here? What are they going to tell us about driving a bus? Thankfully, we were not there to tell them how to drive a bus or how to operate the subway or the trolley. We were there to talk about violence. We were there to look at their policies, what was putting their people in danger, what was keeping them safe. We were there to work with their executive leadership, their management, the union, and kind of be a bridge across all these various groups so that we could help them facilitate dialogue and conversation. Because for years, for decades, they had a pretty combative relationship. I think that is normal in situations where you have a lot of different work groups that are coming with different needs to the table. And in this case, we had tried to act like third-party interveners, which are people that go into places where there has been some sort of injustice or a wrong or a crisis, and they inject in a supposedly neutral way. And it rarely happens in this way. I wish it happened more the way the theory describes. But you're supposed to come in and try to negotiate and create fair dialogue across these groups. And so we started our work by doing needs assessments, interviewing all of these different groups to try to understand their understanding of the problem and to piece together potential solutions that we could apply. And out of that process of several months, and then eventually became years, we worked to understand that community, that workspace itself, the state and local laws, and we eventually built a training program. We worked again to change policy, and over a period of 2.5 years, the assaults went from over 150 down to 16. We were shocked. We did not know that was going to happen. I think there were a lot of reasons why it did, but some of the things that we used in that process were rooted in behavioral science and conflict transformation. When we worked with the union, they were understandably really frustrated and upset and furious, actually, like, why are you here? Why are you telling us what to do? And so there's a technique, a set of skills actually called motivational interviewing that they teach in counseling to help people work with folks in deep addictions, people that are really stuck in their behaviors. And there was actually a model of it that was built for organizational development, which is something that we ended up using as well. But when we sat down with people, we would use these skills to try to reflect for them, to make sure that they understood that they were heard, draw out good information from them, and build a respectful relationship, so that this wasn't just some group of consultants coming in to take their money. That was a nice, it's good to get paid, but if we didn't have any impact, it did feel for us like it would have been a moral failing, because not just coming at this from a job, but we were there for a purpose. I got a lot of purpose out of my work, and so that really helped motivate me as well, having a sense of purpose, using these behavioral science-based tools, and recognizing, and I think this is the hardest part. It's hard for me years in, that change is meant to be hard. It is a frustrating process at its core.
Can you tell us a little bit more about that? Because that's definitely not a way to sell change to anyone in our organizations. But of course, we are on the side of those that are fostering and, of course, facilitating change. So we need to accept that. So tell us a little bit more about what you mean by change is meant to be hard.
Vasco, I don't know about you, but I really struggled to think about a time in my career when I worked through a really impactful change process and it just went right the first time. Everyone just agreed. It was very kumbaya. We got on the same page and the change happened within a couple of weeks or months. The change processes that I have been a part of and I've witnessed have sometimes taken years to really reach the full potential. In some cases, they don't hit their potential at all. They fail and they fall down, and we build on those and we iterate on them. There's sort of this saying in counseling that if the pain of staying the same does not outweigh the pain of changing, then people aren't going to shift. And so sometimes it's our role to help, as Scrum Masters, sort of stepping away from the change management bus transit conversation. I feel like it's been my role at times to fan flames or help the smoke become more visible so that everyone can sense the pain that others in the organization are experiencing and have been experiencing for some time, so that it creates a motivation for people to shift their behavior. These change processes, like in the case of the union, I mean, I got a call, sort of a threatening phone call in the middle of the night at one point. I had people, I don't know how many people in management and leadership and the union screamed at me. I even was pushed up against a wall at one point. That was not, I think, the normal change process in software, but that is a normal change process in really charged work environments.
And by the way, I think that this is great because, of course, you're talking about something that actually happened to you. But screaming in a change process is not that unusual, even in non-violent organizations, like just purely low-stake software development. Right? Like nobody's going to die. Yeah. Like it's not medical science, or we're not putting a shuttle in space. But still people do get mad at each other. And of course, maybe yelling and pushing somebody against the wall might not be the most common of behaviors. But there are others that indicate that type of feeling, because what you're describing is an outward expression of anger, frustration, all coming together, right? And that happens to us. That happened to our colleagues, no matter what the change is.
Yeah. Fear is a natural emotion through the change process. It's uncertainty, the sense of the ground shifting beneath your feet. And I can say with full honesty that the people that I've met in the mass transit of the United States are some of the most brilliant and creative and empathic and thoughtful individuals. And when you are that invested in your work and your life and your experience, it gets heated. People get emotional when there is change coming to their space, even if that change is positive. And so that's why I say that change is hard, because as you, I think, really said well, it's emotionally charged. Even when it's a good thing, people are scared, they're frustrated, they're angry. People need to feel heard, they need to feel seen. And so even if we're extremely well trained, that process is not easy. And so when I remind myself, hey, this is meant to be hard, bud. Like, don't get frustrated. This is the change process in action that you are getting. There's a use for your resistance. It goes back to that motivational interviewing tool, which preaches that we should roll with resistance. That resistance is actually a vehicle for growth. And so when I hit that wall with people of change, I need to remind myself, hey, this is fuel for transformation. This is not the end of the road. It's only the end of the road if you get too impatient and you stop.
And it's when emotions are expressed that you know that something important is happening. Now, it might not be what you want, and it might be completely unexpected, but it is important, and it is up to us then to be curious and figure out what is important that is just now happening with this, group of people or this person, right?
If anyone is listening who has a sort of a leadership position, when your people shut down, that is when you should be worried. When they are excited, when they're angry, when they're upset, when they're sending you notes of like, hey, we should change this, we should change that, that is a sign that they're engaged and that they're still in the change process. They still want to be part of the solution. But when people don't say anything, when they've shut down, they're not sending you those messages anymore, when they don't care enough to be angry, that is when you should be worried. And you should ask, how could we reopen dialogue? How can we create a safer space for people to express themselves? And I'm not pushing for safe. I think safe space gets a bad rep. Organizations that can learn and can communicate can pivot more quickly. So if you shut down that communication, you lose a lot of intelligence that you might otherwise get from your front line, from your engineers, from your ops people, from your managers. So don't shut that down. Embrace it, even if it's hard, even if it's difficult, even if it's supposed to be hard, right? Yes, especially if it's hard.
Absolutely. Great story. Thank you for sharing, Zach.
Thank you for having me.
Leading change is one of the core skills we must acquire, but it is only one of the steps towards our success as Scrum Masters. Tomorrow, on Success Thursday, we will talk about how to define success for the Scrum Master role. We'll cover tips on how to measure your way to that position, and most importantly, how to develop that focus on continuous improvement that is as important for Scrum Masters as it is for teams. See you tomorrow.
We really hope you liked our show. And if you did, why not rate this podcast on Stitcher or iTunes? Share this podcast and let other Scrum Masters know about this valuable resource for their work. Remember that sharing is caring.